So in today, I'm going to be walking through a complete guide for everything in regards to creating high quality Roblox thumbnails. So I will leave timestamps in the description alongside my website with all of the free information and downloads I'll be using in this video. Alongside this, we'll be starting off the video just by downloading a free software. So for the first thing we're going to be getting is going to be Roblox Studios. So over on my website, obviously these are the ones you're going to need, but if you go on over just to Roblox, you're just going to click create and then come on down here to Studio. So if you click Studios, if you don't have it, it'll do this and you can download it. But then if not, you can just do that and it's very straightforward. And the second thing we're going to need before we get straight into it is the load character plugin. So this is going to be the best plugin available for loading in your character or any other character. So you're going to quickly download and use that. And then we're going to simply just hop in, and I'm just going to go into a base plate since this is really all I need. So you don't need this. And so what we're going to first start off by doing is we're going to go on over to plugins. So in plugins, as you see, the load character one is going to be right here. So we're going to click load character, and then you can search up your own username. So I can search up mine. Make sure you set spawn at origin on xstat and then R6. So he'll probably be in the ground, but you just move him around and then you'll be fine. But so what we're going to do is after you have loaded him in, this is pretty simple, but the first thing we're going to do is over in the Explorer. So if the Explorer isn't open, you can go over to view, just select that. So show the Explorer. You're going to come on over to your avatar. So by default, it should have everything selected if you click on your username. But so what you're going to do is first things first is you're going to want to click on your accessory. So if I want to get gold chain, all of these, if I want all of these in my thumbnail or the avatar I'm exporting, then we're going to cover all of them, right click them, come on down to save and export, and then export as OBJ or object. So we're going to export these. And as a quick note, to make this simpler, what we're going to do is quickly make a file type. So you're going to open up your files and go on over to desktop. So what you're going to do is you're going to click new and you're going to create a folder. Now you're going to name that folder whatever you want. I named mine Roblox Blender. And then inside of this, you're going to make these few things. So the first one is going to be extras. This is just give extra random crap you want to render. Renders, so you can put your saved images there. Roblox avatars, so this is where you'll actually save all your individual items. And then finally, Roblox starter rigs. So this is going to be one of the files we're actually going to download later, but you do want to make sure you have your configuration or your files looking like this. So you'll have, once again, extras, render, Roblox avatar, these folders all inside of a Roblox Blender folder. So then what we're going to do, come back on over, I'm going to right click everything. You're going to right click it, save and export as OBJ. Now you're simply going to go back on over to that folder, and then you're going to go into Roblox avatar. You can name this whatever, and then you're going to export it. And then for the rest of it, what you're going to do is then delete all of these accessories, and then you're going to save the rest of your things. So you're going to come back on over, and then you can just right click on your entire character and then save and export this back on over to the folder. And then you can name this like, your whatever. And so this will save all of this stuff. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put all of this crap into Blender. So Blender is going to be one of the links on my website. So this is going to be the Blender 4.0 is the newest one right here. So you can see all of these really cool informations. This is completely free and one of the best animating tools you can possibly get. So now you're going to download this. So you can come on over to the download section on the top left, download Blender. This will just open it up from there. And then you can just X that out. And then the next thing we're going to do is go back to the website. You're going to get what's called a starter rig. So these are amazing, completely free, and there's all of these character rigs. So there's normal R6 and there's R15 characters. All of these ones you can download. Just click the purchase or purchase again, if you've already done that. Make sure you do put in the amount, and then you'll do that. Now, once again, this is completely free. And if you do want to support him, you can actually add a tip, like simple amount of money, like that much. I bet he would love that. And then just put in your email and click get. Also, yeah, you have to add at least a number. And then it'll send the thing to your email, or you can just download the contents from here. So what you want to start off by downloading is the starter rigs folder. You're going to download this, and then you're going to go into your files and extract that. And then you're going to put that folder into your Roblox Blender file from earlier. Now, over in that folder, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to go into rigs. And me personally, I like using the starter blocky rig, which is going to be this one right here. You just double click on that and it'll open up Blender. So we're going to be looking at something like this. So what we're going to be doing first off is the first one we're going to do is we're going to click on just anything. So to move around, what you can do is middle click on on your mouse to move around, or you can select this right here. And then to click shift, you can move around this way. And then to zoom in and out, you can either scroll wheel or click control and that. And then alt just switches it on direct axes, but realistically, that's not really useful. So we're going to click on a part of the body. This will be selecting it in the blocky rig, and we're going to go on over to shading. So now inside of this, what we're going to do is use your middle click on your mouse scroll wheel to move around. You're going to click on that, delete that. Obviously now it should have no color at all. Then we're going to click open. Then we're going to our Roblox Blender, Roblox avatar, and you should have these PNGs. So what I'm going to do is probably use my own one right here. As you see, it'll probably be facing backwards, but I don't think that matters. As you see, it'll have no face like this, which is completely fine. But the next thing we're going to do, now we're going to go back on over to the layout section. And if you're wondering why you can't see anything, you're going to come on up to the top right. You're going to click on this third one right here. This will load in everything. So if you're on the first one, this is just this. Second one is going to be just the character. The third one's going to be this. The next one is going to be what lighting looks like. So as you see, we have no lighting but we're going to be using this one right here just so we can see the character by itself. And now what we're going to do is import all your avatar items like hats, back blings, and all that. So you're going to come back on over to file. You're going to go back into import, and you're going to import wavefront.obj. You're going to go over to Roblox Blender, Roblox avatar, and then all this stuff. So I'm going to do, as you see, we just have my face. And then as you see, we now have everything. So I just had the file name something else, but this will look fine. So obviously, if you look at his face, renders weird because of the actual designer who made it, but that's completely fine. So now that we have this set up, we can actually start to get closer to the final product. Also, as a note, something to mention is when you are importing the files, whenever you go to Wavefront OBJ, import them, you should make sure that you select the split by group and split by object so that when you import it, they'll actually be individual items rather than one all at once, which is probably something I should have mentioned. And so now what we're going to do is just position everything to look correctly. So what you can do is go to the side, and then we can come on over here and you can click on the move thing, or you can do shift and space and you can select any of them from here, and you can move over the items just to make sure that they are correct. So the next thing we're going to do is you're going to pretty much rig everything to your character. Also, if you do want to have headless, you pretty much can just select your head and delete it. And obviously I don't really want to do that, but you know, might as well. But so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to scroll out and you're going to click on this gear icon right here. And then after you click on the gear icon, you're going to come up here and go into pose mode. And now in pose mode, you're pretty much going to come on over to the right side and select each individual piece of accessories you want to rig onto your character. Then you're going to zoom in and you're going to see this little circular line around your character's head, and you're going to shift click onto that, and then you should see that correctly. Now the next thing you're going to do is click Control P. You're going to come on down and select bone. So now pretty much what this is going to do is if I click off, if I now rotate the head, it is going to rotate all of the body parts around that as well. As you see, it turns all this stuff. Now, obviously, if I didn't want to do that with the chain, I could, but as you see, it will now keep everything selected onto your head rather than, you know, just rotating the head and then the thing staying in the air. Now, the next thing we're going to do is setting up the camera that I'll actually render this. So the first thing we're going to come out into object mode. So you're going to come out of that, and then you're going to come up and click on add, and then you're going to go down and click camera. And as you see, it should by default put a camera here. So now you can do the task of moving this around, which is a bit of a pain. So what you can do instead is come down to view, cameras, and then active camera. So you'll be viewing what's in the camera. And then you go down to view again, and then you go to navigation and walk navigation. So now you can fly around to position your camera, and then you can fit whatever you want in position. And then you can just straight up just click enter. And then if you want to make anything specific, so like the X, you can do that just to keep it straightened. And then what you're going to do is come on down to the output right here. If you want to make it a square, because once again, we're going to be extracting this later. And then you're going to come on over and you're going to put this at 2000 by 2000. You're going to make it a square just to make it look a bit better. And then click enter again. And then we're going to go back on over to view and then come out of that. So number pad 0. So re-clicking that. Now, as you see, the camera is positioned and looking directly at our character, which is perfect. Now, the next thing we're going to do is add a bit of lighting. So this is pretty much going to be the simpler step. So what you're going to do is come back on up to add, and you're going to click on light, and you're going to do area. So this will spawn randomly over here, right? You can move this over. I would recommend putting it on, I mean, if you want to look at it, it's going to be the corner of the 4th tile, and then move it over to the corner of the 3rd tile, and then move it up to about equal length of your character's shoulder, or just a bit higher actually. And then what we're going to do is if you select onto the corners, you can actually make it way bigger. So if you do that, and then what we're going to do is come on over here and click Control to copy it, and then Control V, or you can just right click on it. And then now we have two of them. I'm going to move this one just about equally over. And so now we have these two lights. Now, the next thing to note is they're not technically pointing at your character. So you're going to grab this little thing right here and then point it directly at like the center of your character's face. And so this will make the lighting directly at it. So if we go back on over to the lighting thing, as you can see, it's not really that bright, which makes sense considering we don't really have anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back on over to this right side right here. And on this is where you can actually select the brightness of it. So first thing is select it to an ellipse, which I think just makes the lighting a bit nicer. You're going to select it to ellipse and then select the power. By default, we're going to do 250. This will just make a good starting point. And then we can go back into the lighting right here. As you can see, it is lit kind of well, but there are a bit of shadows. So pretty much what we're going to do is just, I'm going to try 400 on this one, 400 on this one. And there are still shadows, but that's pretty much because of the hair. Now, obviously you can reposition things to fix that, like lowering the lights or things like that. But for the most part, it is looking pretty good. So now the final step we're going to do is finally, we're going to position and animate our character. So this is what your final thing is going to be. But before you do that, you do need to do this first. You're going to come up onto File, and you're going to, in File, come on down to Save As, and you're going to save this workspace. So back on over, we're going to go into Roblox Blender, and you're going to save this here. So I can name this like, or Blend, and then save this. And so now you can go in here at any point, and you can have this exact thing perfectly set up. But do note, whenever you're animating, never save it. If you save it, it's going to save that animation to that file, so you can't come back and reuse this. So now what you can do is start doing a bit of simple animating. So I mean, realistically, I don't have anything too complex. And so for starters, to move the arm, if I want to move this, I need to come down into pose mode, click on the arm, and then I can just start moving it. And since this is using basic logic, you can't like overextend arms or anything. So you can do basic movements like this, something like that, and just move or mess around with whatever you think you want. So I just made something fairly simple, just a bit of movement. And so now to fully render this, we're going to come on up to rendering. Actually, you don't even need to do that. If you're a real cool person, you can just click keybind F12 and it will render the image just like that. So as you see, there is a bit of shading problems with the eyes, but I mean, realistically, I'll never fully use this. I have a completely different model I use. And as you see, it'll sample all this. And so if you don't have like everything set up properly, it might lag a bit, which is completely fine because realistically, you know, the end product is really good. And so now whenever that stuff goes away, it's fully rendered. Now you can come on down to image, save as. Now you can do this in renders, name it whatever, literally name it whatever, save as image. And then also if you do want to take out the, and then remember, don't save it. So when you click X out, it'll say, oh, you haven't saved anything. Click don't save. You don't want to save that. Now the next thing is we're going to be using Photopea for this. So this is just yet another thing to keep this free. So what we're going to do is new project. You're going to do a YouTube thumbnail, which is going to be this. And my recommendation is 300 DPI, which is dots per inch. And now this is when you obviously want to plan out on the beforehand whenever you first animate everything. So you do want to make sure that you have an idea for what your thumbnail is going to look like before you animate it and do all that stuff. And then you just get to work. And so starting off inside of this, what you can do is starting off with a background. So in my files, I have a background I can use, which I have saved somewhere. Probably. So I'm just going to use this blurred background of, you know, Rivals. Why not? And so then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come on into our files where we saved that. And then you can have this. And then if you click this key right here, you can just select everything on it, just delete. You got to make sure you rest whatever that is, and then deselect, and then you can position this however you want, and then like this, and then you can obviously do something like text, wow, and then I personally like impact regular, I believe is pretty good, or you can do your own fonts. So if you want to get your own fonts, you can download them from a trusted website. So I just added in my own font, so text, wow. Then you can just upscale this, make sure you center it, you know, do whatever you want. And then you can do all that basic stuff and then position this. You can also just upscale it like that and then position it. And then on your character, so what we're going to do is come on over to this right-hand side right here and double click on it. And then you have all these selections. So the first thing is usually always adding a stroke is pretty good. Full opacity, I think 5 is comfortable. Then a drop shadow if you want, or if you're doing your character animated onto an actual object or something, there's a whole nother thing. You can do that for that. But the next thing is going to be, you can add other stuff. So you can add like an outer glow, which is pretty pretty straightforward. So if I want to add a red outer glow, you can do something like make the size like something pretty big and something like that. You know, you can add whatever. Now, obviously, you can go crazy with this if you have, you know, the ability to imagine stuff and whatever. And that's usually how I create most of my thumbnails. Now, obviously, I do a bit of pre-planning on all of them, but for the most part, that's pretty much it. And if you do want to do other stuff on like the text, like a gradient overlay, you can do gradient overlays. This is how most people do their thumbnails. So you do green, a lighter version of green, then an outer glow of green, a stroke outline. This is how most people can make basic like tutorial thumbnails. If that's what you're trying to get into, is text like this. You know, you can duplicate it by alt-clicking it and then change whatever. But for the most part, you can just go wild with whatever you want. You can easily look up other videos on how to do specific things if you have a specific thing in mind. But for the most part, that's pretty much it for the video. If this helped you out, make sure to leave a like. And if you have any other questions, make sure to drop a comment down below asking those, and I will make sure to respond. And anyways, I will see you on the next one.